Brooks, thanks for joining us. You have a really interesting background both in your career and outside the office environment. Talk us through what you did before you joined Ripple.
Thank you, Reinhard. It's great to be here today. I'm just super excited to be at Ripple and to tell you a little bit about my story here and what we're up to in the Apac region. I have been in Asia for 30 years, and it has been an extraordinary experience of building companies and experiencing life over that period, all of which really led up to decided to take on this Ripple experience. But I spent the bulk of my early years at an investment bank at Goldman Sachs. I arrived in Hong Kong in 1991 when there were fewer people in that office running APAC than there were at the Ripple office in Singapore today. And over the next couple of decades in Hong Kong, India, and then in Singapore, I had the opportunity to be a part of a team there that really built out the region into the organization and the footprint that it is today. And it was an incredible experience scaling financial services across this growing and dynamic region. I had another experience in there which was important to leading up to the Ripple role, which was to work at the UN in Cambodia for 2 years in the early 90s. After leaving Goldman the first time and before returning back after business school, I served as a district electoral supervisor in northern Cambodia, in basically a war zone as the country was coming out of a terrible period in its history and before the UN had an election there, which was really my first experience of managing in super difficult environments, cross-cultural teams, and really working against the odds to pull off an election in a rural jungle environment. And then finally on technology, I was a tech banker at Goldman in both the US as well as in Asia during the first internet boom in the late 90s. And had the opportunity to really build that out across all these markets. And I always knew and was committed to the fact that if I could go in-house at one of these companies, exciting dynamic growth companies, I would do so. And did have the opportunity to join Uber as they were building out the region, building out APAC, and just had a fantastic experience building, scaling, working with regulators, launching countries, and actually eventually in some cases selling off businesses as the business grew, and then taking on an international role.
What things are most important to our customers in Southeast Asia?
We really kind of bring something that I think is incredibly valuable to this region. We need to jump on this opportunity of moving value, of moving money, of transacting across borders in ways that are fast, cheaper, more environmentally friendly, and most importantly, end up with the receiver on that receiving that value, receiving that money, that currency quickly in a way that they can get on with their life. And in many cases, as we've seen during COVID, do so in times of deep stress or emergency where the fact that we can move money faster and quicker and greener than anybody else matters to people's lives on the other end of that network. And there's a big remittance game, as you know, in the region. We really think about this region from the Middle East all the way to Japan and everything in between. So we have lots of senders in our region, and we have lots of receivers in our region, markets that are having this money flow back home, often from workers and people that are really putting in hours to get money back to their families in their home countries.
What kind of growth and momentum have you seen for our customers over the past year in the region?
We had 10x growth on RippleNet from a transaction standpoint in 2020, which is incredible. We've continued to build in the Middle East, we've continued to build in India, the Philippines, Thailand, Australia, you name it. And again, one of the things we think about is just how big the footprint is and how much more we've got to do. But the growth has been there. One of the things that someone told me early on was put yourself in the way of growth. No matter what you do in a career, put yourself in the way of growth, and everything else in some ways takes care of itself. And that's what we're doing here at Ripple in APAC. We're putting our teams and our technology in the way of exciting growth.
Singapore's office is quickly growing at Ripple. What does that growth look like?
We have a terrific office here in Singapore. First of all, this physical space is spectacular, and it's a great place to gather. And we were fortunate enough during most of COVID to be able to gather as a team. Not always, but that's been an important part of building out the office. And one of the goals I set for my first 100 days at Ripple was to fill 10 of those open slots and get people onboarded quickly. And we did just that. We've added across all functions in the last 100 days, from CPS to delivery, to business development, to sales. We've added a regulatory head, a compliance head, and we importantly have another 10 roles plus open And really, as you think about it, what Singapore and this APAC headquarters will represent is really a microcosm of the Ripple headquarters as well, a representation of most of our and many of our functions projecting themselves and going after the opportunity here in the region.